So yeah, I'm fully aware that this doesn't look right. I had an issue with it being a little bit further up and it sounded a little bit muddy, but that's fine. What's up guys, it's John here with LazyDog Films, and I managed to sit down with Rob Paulsen. Now 95% of you are like, who's Rob Paulsen? And the other 5% are just imagining one of the characters that he voices. I think it goes without saying that Rob Paulsen is quite possibly a living legend. He is a extraordinary voice actor, most notably for his role as Yakko and Pinky on the Animaniacs and on Pinky and the Brain. He is, I said it before, he's a living legend. He was so gracious to come and speak with me, and we met virtually over Zoom, and we got to talk a little bit about his book, Voice Lessons, his appearance at Fanboy Expo in Orlando on August 20th through the 22nd. And we also got to talk a little bit about season 2 of the Animaniacs, and it was definitely surreal. And he does all the voices from Yakko to Carl Wheezer, and I managed to even get to play a game with him where he did a couple of voices and read out a couple of lines. There is some audio quality issues here. His audio is not that great. It was over Zoom or on the phone. Towards the end of the video, there might be a small bit of audio missing. That was the way it was recorded. I didn't catch it at that time. But I really hope you get to enjoy this interview. And I will address the criticism before we go in. I am an incredibly awkward person. I relish in my awkwardness. So I am very awkward in this interview. And all the questions that I wanted to ask Rob kind of went out the window when I started sitting down and talking to him. I told him I wasn't nervous. I wasn't, but I think it was just the awe of sitting down and having him do Pinky while saying my name kind of made me forget nearly everything I wanted to ask him. But I do hope you enjoy my talk with Rob.
Great. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
It is, you know what? The pleasure is it's all mine. Is that?
Well, cowabunga, dude. Thank you.
How are you doing? How was it over there in California?
It's hot. It's well, you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hot, and it's a perfect place to be in a giant COVID petri dish. So you guys are, it's kind of wacky everywhere, but it's very hot here. But you guys have the humidity, so I think we're probably doing a little bit better than you. But otherwise, it's great. And I'm just grateful to have a chance to chat with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, again, apologies for Zoom. Been using it for a year, and you would think I'd be an expert.
No, not a problem. No apologies necessary. I was supposed to do it on my computer, and I'm actually here at my partner Randy Rogel, his home in Burbank. And Randy wrote most of the songs you guys remember from Animaniacs, like United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, and it's a great big universe, and we're all really puny. We're just tiny little specks about the size of Mickey Rooney. And the other fella who's here with me today is my friend the bride, Maurice Lamache. So they're in the other room, and I have only my phone, and our rehearsal went a little bit longer. So if you don't mind that I'm using my phone, I'm happy to spend some time with you.
I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all.
Great.
So I read your book.
Oh, Jonathan.
Well, okay, I didn't read it. I listened to it.
Thank you. Oh, no, but that's so kind of you. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, no problem. Like, as soon as I got the email from Lori, I'm like, yes, 100%. I think I bought the book and the audiobook that night.
Oh.
I'm like, yes, of course.
Bless your heart. Well, that's certainly not necessary, but I'm so grateful that you did. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great book. It's an audiobook, of course.
Yeah,
is the way to go.
Sure, because I show up in it every now and then. I think even Carl Wheezer shows up in it too, without his croissant, but he shows up.
Yeah, it's a fantastic read. It's
Thank you.
It's fantastic. It's great. It really is great. I want to try to get this out of the way. I'm wearing this purple ribbon. My uncle recently passed from pancreatic cancer.
I'm so sorry. Well, then you know better than I how, well, we, unfortunately, cancer is so ubiquitous. And, as in your case, took your sweet uncle. I am so grateful to nice folks like you for having me on for the most obvious reason is because all I have to do is start doing this and you just start smiling. It's pretty cool. Hey, God, it's my friend Jonathan. Nerf. And that's the most glorious aspect of it. However, having had throat cancer and I'm doing fine, I now have an opportunity to do what you're allowing me to do, which is to reach out, and you and I together can help bring some information to people. And that is a very big deal, my young friend. And I can only imagine how difficult it must be for you and your family. And I'm so, so sorry. However, the fact that his young, handsome, talented nephew, Jonathan, is doing the good work of trying to share that information and maybe even help save people's lives is a very big deal. So I know as an older guy, I can imagine that your uncle would be very, very proud of you. So thank you for letting me in.
That's awesome. Thank you. It was one of the things that listening to it, on my way to work and hearing you kind of talk about like the experience with chemotherapy and everything like that, it kind of took me back to my uncle. And it was, you're chipper in the audiobook, which I understand why you would be chipper. You beat it. And while listening to it, it's just like kind of putting myself into his shoes at that point. By listening to you, and it kind of made me feel a little bit closer to him because of that.
Isn't that my friend? I don't know that you could have given me a more profound compliment. No one wants to deal with cancer. Look, I'm a lot closer to the end than you are, but I can tell you categorically that no one gets out of here without a couple of dings, Jonathan. And whether it's cancer, financial issues, depression, divorce, losing a job, God forbid, losing a child, we all have to endure a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that the upshot of my cancer experience is that I have my new friend, Jonathan, and you have found some sort of comfort in my story that connects you with your dear uncle. My cancer story doesn't have a silver lining, Jonathan. It's a platinum lining. And it is I who is incredibly grateful that you have told me what my book has done for you. Even that much of it. It's not about selling 1 million copies. I'm not going to do that. I wrote the book specifically for doing what you just talked about: inspire, inform, entertain, and maybe even comfort people. You know how powerful laughter, joy is in a circumstance which is nothing short of at sometimes impossible to get your brain around. Oh, you pinky. And so truly, you really have you really given me a compliment that I will respectfully accept it in the spirit in which you gave it, but I'll never be able to fully thank you for that. That's a big deal, my friend. So thank you so much.
And thank you. Now, sorry, I should have saved that for the end. That was
Heck, no problem. We'll fire it up now, kid.
Okay, perfect. So the audiobook says that, or I think you mentioned in the audiobook that it was about 2019. It was just before everything happened last year. Yep. So have there been any voice lessons that you've learned throughout this whole pandemic?
Excellent. By the way, what your young genius host just did, folks, is called a professional segue. my book is called Voice Lessons, and Jonathan said, "Are there any voice lessons you've learned?" It's professional show business right there. Yes, in fact, obviously, the current situation, the pandemic, is something that nobody, well, I don't know, but pretty much anybody living, it's the first and hopefully, please God, the only one we go through. The last pandemic was, I don't know, 1913, 1914. So there may be some people alive, but probably not. So this is a unique experience for all of the world, which makes it relatively unique in human history. I mean, we didn't ask for it, but the whole world is going something collectively that all the inhabitants of the world, by and large, have not been through. So that axiom that we're all in this together is pretty freaking true, for better and worse. Obviously, COVID has been devastating, but I'll tell you what, I have learned something very important, and that is that because we're all in this together, and because we have this marvelous technology that you and I are using right at this minute, we had, specifically with respect to Warner Brothers and my work, it occurred to me last year during the pandemic, when I was still able to work from home doing new episodes of Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs for Hulu, which came out last November.
Yeah.
And there are 13 more coming out this November, but there are 13 out there now. And the biggest voice lesson I learned was that the world, in my view, was given a pile of nasty, stinky, sour lemons. And people like me, who are in the happy business, we got to prepare and release on the world a giant vat of Acme lemonade. So to be in a position where I and my friends, in the middle of this whole stuff a year ago, we're going, oh my God, people are so excited about Animaniacs coming back with Mr. Spielberg and my friend the brain, Maurice LaMarche, and Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. You guys, we're going to be able to do something really good. Not everybody will be able to get Hulu and watch the show, but holy smoke, we've been given a gift. Nobody wants to go through this, but we were given a gift to be able to do something to bring a lot of joy to a lot of people who were so primed for it. And sports was a little different. It wasn't the same. Theater, movie experiences. So to be able to do something for which we had a captive audience, not by their own choosing, and all I have to do is start talking like this, and look what happens to our beautiful friend's face. Isn't that something? All I have to say is, hello, Jonathan. And you can't help it. And I would submit that your audience is doing the same thing. They don't really care who I am. It doesn't matter. Yakko's famous. Pinky is. Carl Wheezer, Raphael, Donatello, all the characters that I've been lucky enough to voice. I don't draw them. I don't write them. But when people find out what I do, and especially in this circumstance, it just makes them happy. So that's the biggest voice lesson, was that the power of joy, kindness, laughter is a much bigger deal, Jonathan, than just my paycheck. And that was the most gratifying voice lesson I learned last year. And I can't even tell you how many people love Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain again. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the book, and I've listened to some of the podcasts, that ever since Animaniacs started streaming on Netflix and now on Hulu, it's kind of been like this huge resurgence.
Yeah,
kind of come back, and is it as, in your mind, is it as popular as it was when it was released back in the 90s versus now?
Anecdotally, I would say more, and the reason is pretty simple. The fan base is kids 8, 9, 10 years old and people 10 years older than I. When Randy and Maurice and I go to Animaniacs in concert, we might have a couple thousand people in the audience, and I hopefully one day we can do it. You can see it. There will be obviously kids there who are being brought by their parents, and then their grandparents are my age and older, and they all love Animaniacs because that show was a hit 25 years ago. And when it came back on Hulu, just rerunning the original shows a few years back, it exploded. That's kind of when Mr. Spielberg and the folks at Warner Brothers Animation said, "Oh, maybe there's a fan base for this." Well, there is. So I can make the argument that the fan base is much larger now. And so it is an unqualified success. It is the #1 watched show and searched show on Hulu. And if they go by a state-by-state basis, 43% of the states search Animaniacs more than any other show on Hulu, including Handmaid's Tale and other brilliant work, of which I'm a fan. But all that does to show, to me, is how popular it is, how Tom Ruegger and his crew, the first go around, got it right. And now Mr. Spielberg, again, with Wellesley Wild, our new showrunner, and his crew have gotten it right again. It's incredible, Jonathan. And when you think about it, it is a very unusual circumstance to have a show that's a generation old that is coming back with the king of Hollywood again, who's now, what, 74 years old, maybe himself, and the original cast and the main characters, and a fan base, many of whom who weren't even alive when we did the first batch. It's a very big deal with technology that was not even thought of when we did the first batch. So it's a very unique circumstance. And we did a blast last Friday. Hulu sent all of us a few assets to let people know that season 2 of Animaniacs was going to be back on November 5th of this year. So I did a little thing, a video on my own, and put it out on TikTok. Overnight, I got 200,000, 220,000 views of me singing, "It's time for Animaniacs, and season 2 is right on track." That's all I did. I looked like this, no animation. People flipped. And so, yeah, I can argue that it's more popular now because the fan base is bigger.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like, I work a day job, and so I'm telling people, I'm telling my coworkers that I'm going to be interviewing Rob Paulsen, and they're like,
"Who's that?"
And I said, "Are you a fan of Animaniacs?" And no matter if they were in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, they're like, "Yeah."
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's like, it's Yakko and Pinky, and everyone is like, "My favorite is Pinky."
Well,
yeah,
I can only tell you, I'm getting a little bit, it's making me cry. If the brain were here, he would tell me stop crying, and then he would pop me in the head. Nerve. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And like you said, people your age and significantly older. So you've proven my point.
Yeah.
And I would submit that the people who are in their 40s have parents my age and older. And just like people who love Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny, they're going, "Animaniacs, Pinky the Brain, are you kidding? I'm in." So it is a very big deal. And I would also submit that those nice folks who said those very kind words, if we had a bunch of them in a room together and you said something to me and I said, "Hey, God, Jonathan, I think so," they would all just go, "What?" and start smiling. Isn't that something? It's fantastic.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So what is your process of developing or finding a voice for a character? I know you say you don't write them and you don't draw them. I would argue you kind of do write them. You kind of you kind of have to, like, I guess you use your improvisational skills to try to flesh out a character. What is that process like?
I do. Great question. Well, the short answer is voice acting is small v, large A. It's acting. Acting is acting. I have done a lot of stage, half a dozen movies, television, whatever. And the process is no different for me than anything I would do in a normal acting circumstance. The audition process is obviously a little different because I don't have to worry about how tall I am or whether or not, I have a beard or don't have a beard, or I'm black, white, green, orange, tall, thin, short, fat, doesn't matter. But my chops are what get me the gig. So what I love about voice acting is that I'm not typed. When I did my first batch of shows before you were born, I did G.I. Joe and Transformers, I don't know, mid 80s maybe. And the first thing I noticed was, wow, all these actors whom I recognized from episodic television growing up in Michigan were working on these animated characters, and none of them had to be concerned about how they looked. And now that I'm old enough to be maybe even your grandpa, people still don't care how I look. As long as Yakko shows up, Jonathan smiles, and we're good. So in my case, you nailed it. Improv is a huge aspect of my creativity. When we get a job on a show, by the time you win the audition and you're hired, then the process begins with the other creative folks, director, producers, writers, to kind of flesh out a character. I am hired to bring my own juice to it, to be able to improvise in the context of what the producers and directors and writers want, and come up with things that make the character organic and natural, just like any other acting job. And because the recording process is such that the animation is not added till I'm done doing my job. All the recording, all the acting is done first. That way I can improvise, or a script change can happen. Writer can say, oh, you did something interesting, I'm going to change this line. Then the animation is done to fit what we do, so we're not locked into the picture. It is, for the first several episodes of a series, an ongoing process. When you're lucky enough to do a character for decades, like Pinky and the Brain, Raphael, Carl, to some extent, people still love Jimmy Neutron and Carl. Then you can really, really have fun, and memes pop up. And somewhere Carl Wheezer says, excuse me, are you going to finish that croissant? And there are 30 million or 100 million or whatever it is views on YouTube of a segment of one episode of Carl Wheezer saying that line. And for whatever reason, it struck a nerve. So now when I go do live appearances and people want to hear from Carl Wheezer, I have something that is culturally significant that I did in 2005, 2006, that was never meant to be anything but a line in one episode of 60 or 70 or 80 episodes. But the internet has co-opted it to make it a thing. So now I have something that's culturally significant with a group of fans who weren't even alive when I did that. It isn't, and so that now breathes new life into Carl. And who knows, maybe there'll be a Jimmy Neutron reboot someday. And I now have a frame of reference as Rob, the actor, that I can infuse into Carl, the character, just like Animaniacs has. If you watch the new episodes of Animaniacs, they're very self-aware about the internet. In fact, there's an episode where Brain says, Pinky, there's this marvelous new thing called the internet. Do you know what humans do with it? And Pinky says, well, I do, but I don't think I'm allowed to say. And you get it. And the audience gets it right away. It wasn't even a thing back in 1995. Crazy. So that's how that happens. It just morphs,
What has the response been online with fans that maybe with people that you meet with Animaniacs with the reboot?
This is the only place where I'm starting to get tongue tied. Overwhelming. Like I said, when we were told by Hulu last Thursday, okay, tomorrow, which would have been last Friday, we're going to announce that Animaniacs season 2 is back November 5th. So I thought, oh, great. Well, I'll blast that out and I'll record something of my own. So in my front yard, with just me and a t-shirt or whatever, I said, it's time for Animaniacs. Season 2 is right on track. Let's see, coming this November 5, telling you that ain't no jive. We're Animani, totally insane. Pinky and the Brainy, Animaniacs. And then Pinky says, only on Hulu. Ain't gotta like saying that word. Hulu, nerve. 27 seconds. I thought of it and recorded it. I don't know, it took me 5 minutes. 260,000 views. Boom. And it's what happens when I go to a convention, like I'm coming to in Orlando next week after next. I meet people at every one of those events that tell me over and over and over again what Animaniacs meant to them, not only in terms of their entertainment and joy, but about getting their loved ones through a difficult time, or referencing a circumstance like your dear sweet uncle. Mr. Paulsen, my mom had ovarian cancer, and she made it through, and she's hanging in there. But man, the treatment was really tough. But she loves Pinky and the Brain, and we would just watch episode after episode of Pinky and the Brain. And then she found out it was on Hulu. So we all got together in the hospital while she was undergoing treatment, and we watched Hulu. And then we found out that other people on the floor that she was on. So we went into the day room and watched Pinky and the Brain together. Are you kidding me, Jonathan? That happens all the time. And it is impossible to quantify that compliment. But all it does is show me that just like we're all in this together for very difficult reasons, we are also all in this together and able to share the joy and the love of laughter together. And it sounds kind of, hyperbolic and heady and self-important. It's not. Joy is joy. I don't care whether you get it from cartoons or music or a good joke or watching The Daily Show. It doesn't matter. But it just so happens that as a guy who makes his living in the happy business, I can tell you that it is a big deal to a lot of people, that is way bigger than my paycheck. And that's what I'm hearing all the time with respect to these new episodes. It's unbelievable.
That is incredible.
It is.
So take me through the process of actually sitting down, writing a memoir, and also getting together with Michael Fleeman, who's more known for crime.
Yeah, Mike Fleeman is a full-time writer. He's written a lot of true crime books. He teaches creative writing and writing at the college level. He's a full-time writer producer. And I had met Mike years ago through my publicist, Lori, whom you've spoken to or had contact with, who is just wonderful. She's would understand why she's a good old-time fashion Hollywood publicist. Little sticky notes everywhere. I just love her to death. And she introduced me to Mike, who was doing an interview show and wanted to have me on. And then we started talking, and I found out that he is a professional writer. So when we pitched our book to several publishers, we finally got a bite with a small company back east called Start Publishing. And boy, I'll tell you what I learned is that I have no business writing a book because I don't know how to be a writer. I'm articulate and I know how to use sentence structure well and know how to use a semicolon and colon and all those things. But writing a book and making my story, which is, hope, as you said, very kindly, apparently entertaining, enjoyable, maybe a little educational, and even, dare I say, inspirational. I lived it, but having a professional writer tell it in a structure that is interesting, that's the art. And I learned an awful lot. It's not false modesty. I'm good at my job, but Mike Fleeman did all the heavy lifting. That book is enjoyable and readable because of Mike. And I remember reading it after we got done, and I thought, this is really pretty damn good. It's interesting. And it's interesting because of the way Mike goes back and forth and cancer. And then, you know, Rob tells Pinky he has cancer. And then Dr. Scratch and Sniff interviews Rob and says, so tell me who you are. Well, I'm an actor. I don't recognize you. Well, no, I do cartoon. Oh, really? Who voices do you do? Ninja Turtles, not familiar. Carl Wheezer, not familiar. Well, interestingly, Dr. Scratch and Sniff, I provide your voice in Animaniacs. Oh, yeah, okay, do the voice. I don't believe you because I've never heard of you. Okay, so, hello, my name is Dr. Scratch and Sniff. And then Scratch and Sniff says, oh, yeah, well, I think we're going to need a bigger couch. And that was all Mike's idea. And it worked beautifully as a plot device. So that's how it went. I sat down and recorded my memories of important moments in my life that were specifically germane to a memoir. And the cancer experience was still very fresh because it was only a year or two previous to the book. And I was still literally dealing with some side effects, which are now, some of which are permanent, but they're nothing that I can't get over. I'm able to do my job. And that really is the main thing. And so it was Mike who knew which questions to ask and said, go back and do some more work on this segment. And I would say, okay, I don't know if I remember very much. He goes, just let it sort of marinate in your head. And I'll be damned. I said, God, I do remember things that I didn't recall in the spur of the moment, but there was this really cool moment when I did a cartoon with Little Richard, or when I worked with Jonathan Winters, or when I worked with, you know, Carol Channing, or people who are big stars, and they inevitably gave me insight into this wonderful entertainment business. But Mike knew that would happen if he asked the right questions. It's really interesting to see a professional writer do their thing.
Wow, that's awesome. It's also interesting that he came up with the idea of you talking with your own characters. I figured that would be baked in already to the actual book.
That was totally his idea. And he said, why don't we have a thing where you break the news to Pinky that you have cancer? And, you know, I improvised it, but it was Mike's idea. And it works really well. It works whether you read it or when you hear it, because it demonstrates that these characters are inextricably linked to who I am.
Yeah.
And a big part of my identity, you know, in the grander scheme, the reason you're kind enough to talk to me is because these characters have become arguably iconic. And it's not the Rob Paulsen show, like your friends. There was no disrespect for it. They should have, I don't expect them to know who the hell I am. Once they find out, it's a totally different story. And I don't care if it's Ninja Turtles or The Mask or The Tick or Goof Troop or Darkwing Duck or Animaniacs or Pinky and the Brain or, you know, Freakazoid or Tiny Toons or Transformers. When people find out who I am and they do a little deep dive, they just go, oh my God, this guy's been around ever since I could remember watching cartoons. So It's just a
incredible.
blast to be in this position. I'm so fortunate, and I know it. And I can't get enough of it because it just makes everybody happy, man.
You know it, and you're humble about it. It's not
Oh,
like
well, thank you.
you have like an ego about it, which I think is why I didn't come into this interview nervous.
Oh, good. I'm so glad because it is so not about me. Look, I'd be lying if I said I don't like it when my friend Jonathan Silva makes a fuss over me, or somebody meets me, or they recognize me at a Starbucks, or I'm at a party and somebody says, my friend just told me, I got to tell you, I love it. I even learned that song about all the countries of the world years ago. Oh, really? You want to sing it? Oh my God. Can I get my phone? And that's what it's about. The characters are famous. I am incredibly grateful and fortunate that I get to be the sort of conduit, and the characters live up here in my cabeza, but it's a tangential fame. So I'm glad that you weren't nervous, because the whole idea is not about interviewing Brad Pitt or Robert Redford. I'm not famous. I'm becoming more so because of nice people like you and the internet and doing lots and lots and being around for 35 years. Sooner or later, people go, I recognize your name. You wrote it down. You watch cartoons? Yeah. What do you? Oh, that's how I remember the DVD extras on the Animaniacs DVDs. I remember now. That's you. That's your Yakko. And that's what happened. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I texted my friend. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna interview Rob Paulsen. Who's your favorite character of his?" And he sends me back, I think, a text within like 2 or 3 minutes. He said, "This man is my childhood. Which one can
Oh,
I pick?"
isn't that great? Thank you, buddy.
So, if it's possible, can I get a shout out? He didn't tell me who his favorite character was,
Oh,
but my favorite, or one of my favorite lines from you, is from Rick and Morty.
oh, where are my testicles, son?
If you can say that, his name is David. I
Okay.
think he'd love that.
All right, David. Hi, this is Snowball, disguised as a very old man. I am, in fact, living inside this man's mind. And I have but one question for you, David. Where are my testicles? Please find them. I would imagine that by now they're probably a little bit stinky, but please find them and return them to Justin Roiland or Dan Hartman in care of Rick and Morty so that I can become whole again. Thank you for watching, David.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
My pleasure, buddy. Now, there's another example.
Mhm.
That's a character I did, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when Justin was starting to do Rick and Morty. It was, I think, the second episode of the whole series.
Mhm.
That little knucklehead character, Snowball, has taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
That show is fantastic. I've probably done half a dozen episodes, but that character has got its own plushies, its own kind of fan base,
Yeah.
who love Snowball from Rick and Morty. I love how that goes down. It's like Carl Wheezer.
Mhm.
Carl Wheezer was like the second or third banana, but millions of people love Carl. I don't know why, but I'm not going to argue with him. It's crazy.
Is there a character that you find that is surprising that has got such a huge fan base? I know you mentioned Snowball and Carl. Is there another one that you think
Well,
that?
those two really come to mind because they're huge. I don't know that I have ancillary characters in my experience that I've been involved with that have taken on a life of their own. The two characters, spin-off of Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, have become iconic, I think.
Mhm.
And they were part of the variety show of Animaniacs, along with the Goodfeathers and Mindy and Buttons and Dr. Scratch and stuff. But Pinky and the Brain, and if you're listening, Warner Brothers and Mr. Spielberg, I think Pinky and the Brain could support a movie. I really do. I love the characters as a fan, and the writing is spectacular, and the characters and the relationship that they have with one another is spectacular. And so that's why Mr. Spielberg decided to have Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs come back on Hulu, and every half hour has a Pinky and the Brain standalone episode. So those are the characters that surprised me at how much they've endured enough to warrant being part of this reboot at this level. So I've really had an incredible amount of good fortune. I don't have any reason to believe that Snowball will be coming back, or Carl Wheezer will be involved in anything. But if you go to TikTok and punch in Carl Wheezer, there might be 400 to 300 million people who've done their versions of Carl Wheezer. That's crazy. Or 300 million videos, I should say, views. You know what I mean? You just never know. But those, Pinky has enjoyed, success after the fact. Same with, I'm sorry, but Carl Wheezer and Snowball have just enjoyed things because they're characters that people like. There's no active, program or show in production featuring Carl Wheezer or Snowball. So those are two that have blown my mind at how people have embraced them.
That's great. And I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, not at all.
So I have one last question, and hopefully I have a small game that we can probably play afterward. So were frings really that bad of an idea? What
our lovely host is talking about is my first gig in Hollywood. The gig that got me my Screen Actors Guild card 42 years ago. Golly. I was a Jack in the Box spokesman with my little Jack in the Box hat, my name tag, many years ago in the late 70s, 1979, I think. And the commercials were built around a new offering from Jack in the Box at the time, in which Jack in the Box thought it was a great idea to put onion rings and French fries in the same bag and call them frings. Marketing, baby. It wasn't like they were French fry flavored onion rings or onion flavored French fries. They were literally a bag, half French fries, half onion rings, frings. So I thought it was a great idea, obviously, because I got the job. It saved people a little money, I reckon, because they could buy, French fries and onion rings in the same bag. So go have a fring, only a Jack in the Box. But no, I thought it was a great idea until people said, hey, I'm going to get frings and share them with my friends. And one guy would take a bite of a French fry and go, oh, I hate onions. How could, well, they're in the same bag. Oh, what a stupid idea. So who knows? But it worked out really well for me.
I unfortunately don't have Jack in the Box over on my sides, but
no problem.
Going to Burger King and getting onion rings and getting that
there you go,
that jump in fry. So it was always a good idea. So
yeah, man.
So I figure Talking Tunes has you and your guests kind of read through movies based on some of their characters. Instead, I don't know how much we can do here. Probably a few. I have an Excel sheet here with a few of your characters, a few of the characters that you've done, and a few that you don't necessarily do professionally.
Okay.
But I have heard you done some of them. And some lines from movies. Now I have movies here from Taxi Driver, Scarface, Forrest Gump, The Princess Bride, Pulp Fiction. So I have a random number generator, and I don't know if I can send. Yeah, there we go. I can send the text through the chat.
Oh, okay, great.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna randomize. There's 15 characters and 15 lines.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hit it twice. Okay. One for your character and one for the line itself.
Okay.
So I'm going to hit generate.
All right.
All right. So number 6 is Donatello.
Okay, Donatello. Okay.
And the first one is Taxi Driver.
Okay.
It's the scene where Robert De Niro is eyeing himself in the mirror. Are you talking to me?
You're talking to me? Right. Okay. So it's going to come. Oh, that's all it is? Let me see.
Yeah,
Okay, here we go. Can you still see me?
I can. Yeah.
All right, here we go. As Donatello. Stuff together, man, because people think of you as kind of a brainy one, but you gotta fight it. You talking to me? Are you talking to me? Talking to me. And who the hell else are you talking to? Huh? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. Who the do you think you're talking to? Oh yeah? Okay. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm gonna get killed.
Oh, that is awesome. I'm gonna
Thank
do it
you.
one more time.
All right.
All right. So 11.
All right.
We have Dr. Scratch and Sniff,
Oh yeah.
and this is a very short one. This is from Captain Phillips.
Oh. Here we go. Okay.
I kind of lost you there.
Hear me now?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, here we go. Scratch and Sniff from Captain Phillips Muse. Quote, May, look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Oh, they're going to lock me up in the water tower. I'm going to help Yakko and not make me so crazy because I'm the captain.
All right, let's do. Well, we did that one already.
Want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more. So
Cool.
we landed on Snow Job
Oh my God, from G.I. Joe.
from G.I. Joe, and
All right, yeah.
And okay, this is Bubba from Forrest Gump.
Oh, great. Here we go. All right, remember, Snow Job from G.I. Joe is from up there in Maine, Boston, down easter. Anyway, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. There's shrimp kebabs, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried, deep fried, stir fried. There's pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes, shrimp burger, shrimp sandwich. Maybe we could do lobster too. Hey, George, get me a lobster. We're going to throw it in the pot with all this shrimp. Forrest is going to love it. That's about it, young fella. Go, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rob.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy. I really appreciate taking so much time with an old man. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you for indulging me, and enjoy the rest of your rehearsal.
I sure will. And we will see you guys, I reckon. Are you going to be at Fan Expo in Orlando?
I am taking a stance by not going anywhere. I'm trying to stay safe as best as I can.
Understood. And I have to tell you that I'm still wrestling with it myself. I've been told by the organizers that they're going to have us, behind a pane of glass.
Mhm.
And I told them, look, I'm vaccinated, but I'm going to wear a mask.
Mhm.
So if people want to come out, it's not going to be a lot of handshakes and hugging, but we are going to get through this, and due in no small part to people like nice folks like you who are kind enough to help us figure it out. So thank you, my young friend. You're doing a hell of a job and a hell of a service. And
Thank you.
let me just leave you and your listeners and viewers with laughter. Laughter, my friend, is so the best medicine. The cool thing is you can't OD and the refills are free. So my young friend, Jonathan Silva, thank you very much for helping me to laugh. And in the spirit of your beautiful uncle, why don't we all keep laughing together to help us get through this? Okay, buddy?